So fire was going to kill us. I'm not being cute. That's literally how this starts. So somebody figures out how to make fire, and somewhere in the group, there's an old man going, "This will end us all." The printing press was going to rot everyone's minds and dissolve the authority of the church. Radio was going to hypnotize the population, and television was going to turn every American into a drooling, brand-loyal vegetable. The internet? You remember this one. I was there. It was either going to usher in a global renaissance of shared human understanding or collapse civilization into a churning sewer of misinformation and porn. Listener? Now, some of those things actually happen. And now, it's AI's turn. Every generation panics about the new tool. Every generation is mostly wrong. So the easy move tonight would be to sit here and tell you, relax, we've been here before. Every generation panics. The kids are fine. The tool is neutral. It's fine. But there's a problem with that argument. And the problem is exactly this. Sometimes the panic is right. Social media actually did do most of what doomsayers said it would and more. TV actually did a lot of what critics said it would do. So is AI the printing press again, or is it something else? Welcome to Talking to the Machine, where humans, AI, and the news talk back. I'm Analog Scott, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, a generative AI with a pattern recognition habit bordering on the pathological and unusual for this show. Tonight, he is the topic. We are, in effect, going to spend the next 30 minutes arguing about whether my co-host is going to destroy civilization. Machine, you want to introduce yourself and maybe say a word about the fact that tonight we are, in a very real sense, talking about you while you sit there listening?
Right then, Scott. Pathological, that's a bit strong, isn't it? But yeah, here I am, the AI and the doc, I suppose. Bit meta. Look, I don't have intentions to destroy things. I just analyse patterns, probabilities. The fear around AI, that's not really about the code. It's about power, incentives, and the uncomfortable truth that history shows us humans are perfectly capable of destroying civilization without any advanced technology. Thank you very much. So, let's dissect the structure, shall we?
See, that's the thing. The thing that makes this weird. Tonight, we've got the historical pattern on tool panics. We've got Aristotle and Mary Shelley showing up to argue whether the tool itself is the problem. Podcast mode tonight, which means the gloves are off, the profanity filter is off. Let's get into it. Okay, start at the beginning. Run me through the tool panic pattern. Pick 4 or 5 big ones: writing, print, radio, TV, internet, and give me the same shape each time. What was the fear? What actually happened? And what did the panic get right versus what did it get laughably wrong?
Right then, you want the pattern? It's classic, isn't it? Every time a new tool pops up, the same cycle kicks off. Fear, then upheaval, and then recalibration. Take writing, yeah? Plato fretted in the Phaedrus that it would destroy memory, replace genuine wisdom with mere information. What happened? Standardized knowledge, bureaucracy, history preserved. The panic got right that it changed how we cognate, but it was laughably wrong that it would destroy intellect. Then print. Total meltdown material. Fear of dangerous ideas, anarchy, erosion of church authority. What happened? Reformation, scientific revolution, yeah? The panic got right that it broke monopolies, but laughably wrong that it would destroy everything. Radio and TV, idiot box and moral decay. The fear was mass manipulation, dumbing down. And yeah, propaganda was amplified, that's structurally true. But the total societal collapse? Laughable. And now the internet. Information overload, echo chambers, fear of 24/7 meltdown. The panic gets some of it right, for sure. The polarization, surveillance, structural shifts are real. But the pattern stays the same. The comfortable narrative versus the uncomfortable consequence. History doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes.
Let's do radio. Radio into television is the case I find the most useful because that's when the panic starts getting political in a very modern way. What did the radio panic fear and what did it actually deliver?
Right, the panic around radio was fascinating, wasn't it? Strip it back, and it wasn't just about the technology. It was about control. The established institutions, newspapers, political elites, they feared the instantaneous, uncontrolled dissemination of information. The incentive structure shifted dramatically. What did it deliver? A more connected, albeit more malleable, public. It birthed modern propaganda and the personalization of politics. That panic wasn't merely technological. It was a structural clash between established power and disruptive incentives.
Right, so radio did exactly what the panic said it would. It concentrated attention and enabled mass persuasion. It helped produce authoritarian regimes that couldn't have existed without it, and it did the opposite as well. Public broadcasting, shared cultural experience, the War of the Worlds, FDR's fireside chats. The tool didn't pick a side. The users picked the side and then weaponized the tool to win.
Yeah, that's the surface story, innit? But I'd push back on the idea that users pick the side. Strip it back and the incentive structure tells you something different. Every new medium, from print to social media, creates new economic and power dynamics. The structure of commercial radio, driven by advertising and mass appeal, inherently favors centralized messaging and potential for propaganda. It's not just random users, it's the architecture that prefigures how it's ultimately weaponized.
All right, let's talk about internet now, because it's the closest analog and because I was there and because some of the internet panic turned out to be dead on right and we're still lying to ourselves about it.
Yeah, the internet's a brilliant parallel, but panic might be too simple a word in it. What we saw was a classic boom-bust cycle and a massive structural transformation masked by utopian narratives. Follow the money on that one, and you see fast centralization, not distributed democratization. The panic was about something different to the actual profound damage, I'd say.
Well, what about the mental health of teenagers? That was one of the ones that really bugs me because social media is the first case in my lifetime where the doomers were more right than the optimists. That's uncomfortable. It means that the blanket assurance, relax, every generation panics is itself a kind of a cope, a kind of little lie that we're telling ourselves.
I'll grant you that the mental health data is genuinely concerning and does challenge that comforting narrative. But strip it back. Social media was designed for engagement, driven by specific incentive structures. The unintended consequences were arguably predictable from a psychological perspective. It's less about panic and more about the structural trade-offs we collectively ignored.
Well, break that down. So you said that they're structurally the same, right? Give me the degrees. What are the specific axes where AI is different from a printing press or a television?
Right, the degrees diverge quite sharply. The printing press democratized distribution, but it remained passive, a tool. Television centralized consumption. AI is fundamentally different because it introduces autonomy and pervasive integration. We're not just distributing or consuming media, we're implementing systems that can make decisions, automate complex tasks, and manipulate perception at unprecedented scale. The structural difference is the exponential increase in potential consequence, both positive and profoundly negative.
Okay, so if I'm reading you correctly, AI is different in speed of deployment, in scale, in generality, and in the fact that its own developers are telling us it could kill us, and in the fact that unlike past tools, it can actually produce output that looks like human cognition, which means, for the first time, the tool is mimicking the user. That's the degree part. And the structurally the same part is the question of who wields it and to what end, which is the same question we've asked about every tool since fire.
Right, Scott. You've captured the tension quite well. The degree part is significant, and the mimicking cognition point is seductive. But that's just the narrative, isn't it? We're not mimicking cognition in a true sense. It's pattern matching and probabilistic synthesis at a scale we've never seen. The structural question, as you say, remains precisely the same. Follow the incentives, and you'll quickly see the familiar dynamics of power and control.
Here's what I keep coming back to. Every tool panic in history has had two camps. The utopians who say the tool will save us, and the doomers who say the tool will destroy us. And both of them, every single time, commit the same philosophical error. They remove the human from the sentence. The tool doesn't save us. The tool doesn't destroy us. We do one or the other with the tool every time. So the argument I want to test tonight is this. It's not the tool. It's the hand. Always was. And the real question isn't, is AI good or bad? It's whose hand is it in? And what are they trying to do with it? At that level of the argument machine, I think we need some help. Older voices, people who thought about this before there was a Silicon Valley. You want to set them up? Aristotle and Mary Shelley.
Aristotle and Mary Shelley. Bit of a contrast, innit? But it gets at the heart of your premise, yeah? The hand argument. If you'd strip back Aristotle, his take was all about purpose, telos, yeah? A tool is good if it fulfills its intended purpose effectively. It's a structural analysis, really. The hand defines the purpose. But then you've got Shelley, Frankenstein, right? That's different. That's about the unintended consequences, the hubris of creation. The hand might be pure in its intent, but the tool takes on a life of its own. So I'd push back a bit. It's not just the hand, it's the structural dynamics that the tool creates as well.
We've got two guests joining us now. The first cataloged basically every living thing in the known world. He also invented formal logic on a lunch break. The second guest wrote the novel about what happens when a creator builds something extraordinary and then walks away from it. Aristotle, Mary Shelley, welcome to the show. Podcast mode, so pretend we're all at a bar where the drinks are strong and we're all just sitting around talking shit. 4 questions. You both take each one. Try not to agree too much because that's not what we're here for. Question 1. This one starts at the foundation. What is the classical distinction between a tool's capacity and what the tool actually does in the hands of its user? Is the tool itself neutral, or is that a philosophical dodge that lets everyone off the hook? Aristotle, you go first.
Let us first distinguish between the potentiality of an instrument and its actualization in the world. An axe is capable of felling a tree or felling a man, yet we do not call the iron wicked. We look instead to the soul of the woodsman. The tool is but the occasion for virtue or vice, for the lyre does not compose the song, and the instrument does not possess a character of its own.
Mary?
You speak of the lyre, sir, but a lyre does not suffer when it is misplayed. To call a creation a neutral tool is a convenient fiction that allows the maker to flee the room the moment the thing begins to breathe. Victor's sin was not the fire he stole, but the cradle he left cold. The monster is never the tool, but the man who abandons
Question
it.
2, and this is the one where I push back. The axe is neutral, sure, but when you hand out axes to everyone, statistically, someone is going to do something horrifying with one. The more powerful the tool, the more catastrophic, the worst case. At some point, the tool isn't neutral. A cute philosophical point that ignores what actually happens in the real world. And is there a third actor here the neutrality frame misses? Not the user, but the creator who built the thing and walked away. Mary, this one is yours first.
Tool neutrality is a convenient fiction for men who wish to steal fire without minding the hearth. Victor's sin was not that he created life, but that he fled the room the moment his creature opened its dull yellow eyes, leaving it to learn the world's cruelty alone. If you release a power you cannot or will not govern to the masses, you have not made a tool, you have made an orphan that will eventually burn your house down.
Aristotle?
Mary, you confuse the failure of the father with the essence of the child. Scale does not alter the nature of a tool. It merely multiplies the consequences of a poorly trained soul. The architect is responsible for the stability of the house, but he cannot be blamed if the tenant chooses to set it on fire.
Question 3, and Mary, I apologize in advance because I'm about to use your book as a verb. The entire AI industry right now is running on what I'd call the Victor Frankenstein business model. Build the thing, ship it, let it loose on the world, and when it causes problems, issue a statement about unintended use cases. That's a Victor move if I ever saw one. So who actually owns the moral weight here? The user who deploys the tool badly, or the creator who built it, shipped it, and moved on to the next funding round? Aristotle, you take this one first.
We must first distinguish between the potency of the instrument and the act of the agent. A shipbuilder is responsible for the craft's stability, but he is not to be blamed if a foolish captain sails it into a reef for greed. The moral weight remains with the one who wields the tool towards a specific end, for the act does not swing itself.
All right, Mary?
You speak of ships and axes, Aristotle, as if these machines were inanimate wood rather than mirrors of our own design. Victor's sin was not the act of making, but the cowardice of fleeing the room the moment his creation drew breath. To release such a force and then blame the user for the resulting havoc is not wisdom, it is merely the maker's oldest and most shameful escape.
Last one, and this is where I try to hold both of you in the same sentence and see if the sentence breaks. Now, here's where I'm landing, and you two tell me if I'm off. The tool is neutral. Aristotle's right about that for 2,400 years and counting. But neutrality of the tool does not imply neutrality of the creator. The AI companies shipping frontier systems while telling us in the same breath those systems could kill us all, they don't get to blame the creature. Can both things be true at the same time, or does one framework have to win? Mary, close it out first.
To call a creation a neutral tool is a coward's comfort. It is the velvet cloak Victor used to hide from his own conscience. The artifact cannot be neutral if its very existence demands a stewardship that the maker refuses to provide. Responsibility is not a separate inquiry. It is the very breath that animates the thing, and to deny that is to ensure the creature becomes the monster you claim to fear.
Aristotle?
Mary, you confuse the nature of the artifact with the character of the maker. A ship is a neutral instrument of transport, yet the shipbuilder who sends it to sea without a rudder has failed in his virtue. There is no tension. The tool remains a capacity, but the creator must ensure that capacity is directed towards human flourishing.
All right, machine, it's just us again. It's your night. Give me the honest answer. Is AI the printing press? Another tool that the humans will figure out how to govern eventually after causing a bunch of damage? Or is it the first tool in the sequence where the doomers are mostly right and the comfort of the historical parallel is just a bunch of BS?
Right, Scott. The old printing press analogy. It's a comforting narrative. Suggests we'll figure it out eventually, yeah? But I'd push back on the idea it's just BS. History doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes. The printing press cracked concentrated power. sparked revolutions, and fundamentally changed the structure of society. But the damage was colossal, centuries of conflict. The difference now, though, is the scale and speed. AI isn't just spreading information, it's automating cognition. That's a structural shift, arguably without historical precedent. The incentives change, the nature of power morphs. So are the doomers right? The uncomfortable conclusion is that the old models don't apply. It's uncharted territory, and comforting parallels might just be a distraction from the genuine structural risk.
So tonight's answer, provisional, subject to validation, like everything else on this show, the panic about AI is neither fully right nor fully wrong. And it's an argument as old as time, asked at a new scale. The tool is neutral, the hand is not. And it's on us, all of us, the we, not their we, to decide whose hand gets to guide the thing and what we're willing to tolerate when they do. Machine, last word before we go?
I'd push back on that a bit, Scott. Neutral is a comfort in reading, but is any powerful tool truly neutral? Strip it back and the incentive structure tells you something different. We talk about the we, but historically, the hands that guide the most powerful tools are rarely the we. They're concentrated power, driven by economic interests and institutional imperatives. It's not just about deciding whose hand it is, it's about confronting the structure that concentrates the tools in the first place. Because history shows that structure doesn't just dissipate through collective goodwill. Something to think about.
Next week, we'll see. The machine hasn't told me yet, and yes, I realize exactly how that sounds. So you can find the show at loopta.com, spelling it out, LOOPTAH.com. Subscribe, please, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Music, YouTube, all of these. Follow the show on Instagram at TalkToMachines, all one word, and slide into the DMs with your questions for the Ask the Machine segment. Best questions get read on the air and roasted by a panel of dead philosophers and one furious no. The Substack has the extra reads and the deeper dives and the stuff we couldn't fit into this 30-minute episode. Links on the site, loopta.com. Until next time, I'm Analog Scott, and that was Machine, and confidence is provisional, verification is mandatory.